This is not random or accidental. You did not stumble upon these words by chance, and you are not listening to this message because an algorithm decided so. There are moments when heaven interrupts the ordinary flow of life, and this, right now, is one of those moments. Something ancient, intentional, and deeply precise has aligned for you to hear this message today. Archangel Michael is speaking under divine authority, and the weight of this moment cannot be overstated. Heaven singled you out, not because you were perfect, but because you were chosen. And there is a difference. Chosen means marked, watched, preserved, and positioned for an assignment that others could not carry. That is why this message feels heavy, urgent, and impossible to ignore. Your spirit already recognizes it. Before you pressed play, before you even knew this message existed, a decision was made in the spiritual realm. Timing matters in heaven, and you are standing at an intersection that does not repeat itself casually. Archangel Michael, the great defender and messenger of divine order, does not speak without reason. When he speaks, it is because something is at stake. What is at stake today is not small. It is not symbolic. It is not abstract. There is something that was assigned to you, specifically to you, and this moment is directly connected to whether that assignment moves forward or is forfeited. This is why the warning feels so direct. Skipping this message is not about missing information. It is about rejecting an activation. You may have felt unusual pressure leading up to this moment. A sense of restlessness, an unexplainable pull, or even resistance that made no logical sense. That resistance is not random either. When an assignment is close to activation, opposition intensifies quietly. Not loudly, not dramatically, but subtly, through distraction, delay, and doubt. Archangel Michael is revealing this now so you understand the seriousness of what is unfolding. Heaven is not threatening you. Heaven is alerting you. There is a difference. Warnings are a form of mercy. They exist because something valuable is still within reach. Understand this clearly. Heaven does not single people out casually. Selection follows observation. Long before today, your endurance was noted. The way you survived seasons that should have broken you was recorded. The times you stood when it would have been easier to disappear were seen. Even moments when you felt unseen, unheard, and overlooked were not wasted. They were part of the evidence. This is why this message found you. Not because you were searching for it, but because it was searching for you. Heaven is precise, and Archangel Michael does not miss his target. This message carries urgency because timing is critical. Assignments are not eternal offers. They are windows. When heaven opens a window, it expects recognition. Ignoring a divine signal does not make it disappear. It redirects what was meant for you. This is why the warning is clear and uncompromising. Skipping this message will cancel what was assigned, not because God is cruel, but because divine order requires response. Heaven moves with those who move. Silence, delay, and indifference are interpreted as refusal in the spiritual realm. That is not said to instill fear, but to awaken discernment. You may be wondering why this feels so intense already. It is because this message is not speaking to your mind first. It is speaking to your spirit. Your spirit knows there is more ahead than what you have been living. It knows that stagnation was never your final chapter. Archangel Michael is addressing the part of you that remembers who you were before life tried to shrink you. That memory is being stirred intentionally. This is not motivation. This is remembrance. And remembrance is powerful because it reconnects you to what was always yours. There is also a reason this message begins with clarity instead of comfort. Comfort can come later. Right now, awareness is more important. Heaven is calling your attention back to alignment. You were not meant to drift through life reacting to circumstances. You were meant to walk with authority, discernment, and purpose. Something assigned to you requires your agreement. Divine assignments are not forced. They are accepted. This is the moment where that acceptance begins, not with words, but with attention. If you feel a quiet heaviness in your chest, or a sudden stillness in your thoughts, do not resist it. That is not anxiety. That is recognition. Your spirit is acknowledging truth before your mind fully catches up. Archangel Michael's presence carries clarity, not confusion. Protection, not fear. Order, not chaos. And right now, order is being restored around your calling. This opening part is meant to arrest distraction and pull you fully into the moment, because what comes next builds upon what you are receiving now. Do not rush this. Do not minimize it. Do not treat this as background noise. This is a direct interruption meant to realign you with what heaven has already decided about your life. You were singled out today because something is ready to move. And whether it moves with you depends on what you do with this moment. This is only the beginning, but beginnings matter. What follows will make this clarity even sharper. Stay present. Stay receptive. What comes next changes everything. There is a hidden reason you were chosen, and it is deeper than talent, effort, or chance. Heaven does not select people the way the world does. The world looks for visibility, popularity, and outward strength. Heaven looks for endurance, obedience under pressure, and a heart that did not harden when life tried to break it. You were chosen because you carried something through seasons where it would have been easier to let it die. Many people started with what you had, but they did not finish with it. They dropped it in disappointment, offense, or fatigue. You did not. Even when you were confused, even when you were tired, something in you refused to quit completely. That is why heaven took notice. There were moments when you questioned yourself, when you wondered why the road felt longer for you than for others. You watched people advance faster, receive recognition sooner, or experience ease where you faced resistance. What you did not see was that your path was not slower. It was deeper. Depth takes time. Strength that can carry divine assignments must be tested quietly, away from applause. Archangel Michael is revealing this now because the testing season is connected directly to the assignment season. What was hidden is about to become active, but only if you understand why you were set apart in the first place. You were chosen because you can stand when clarity is incomplete. Many people require full understanding before they move. You learned how to move with faith when answers were partial. That is rare. You were chosen because you learned restraint. You did not speak every thought, react to every provocation, or expose every wound. You learned silence before vindication, patience before reward. These are not small things in heaven. They are qualifications. The spiritual realm values what the natural realm overlooks. What felt like delay was actually development. There is also a reason opposition surrounded you more than others. Resistance follows assignment. The greater the potential impact, the earlier and subtler the putback begins. Some of the battles you faced were not about the situation at all. They were about preventing you from reaching this moment of awareness. Distraction was sent. Discouragement was sent. Doubt was whispered. And yet, you are still here listening. Alone tells you something important. You were not eliminated. You were preserved. Archangel Michael's message is firm because clarity removes excuses. Now that you know you were chosen intentionally, you can no longer explain your life as random or meaningless. Heaven does not waste suffering. Every tear, every delay, Every unanswered question was shaping your capacity. You are being told this now because the season of preparation is transitioning into the season of participation. You are no longer only being formed, you are being called to respond. This is where responsibility enters. Being chosen is not just an honor, it is an expectation. Heaven expects movement when alignment is revealed. That is why acknowledgement matters. Even your engagement with this message is not neutral. Attention is agreement in the spiritual realm. When you lean in, when you listen fully, when you respond instead of scroll past, you are signaling readiness. This is why what you do right now matters more than you think. If this message is resonating, do not keep it private. Engage with it. Like this message as a sign that you receive it. Share it with someone who may also be standing at a crossroads without realizing it. Subscribe if you have not already, not just to a channel, but to the flow of messages that continue to sharpen your discernment. And leave a comment, not as noise but as a declaration that you are present and paying attention. These actions may seem small in the natural, but they are loud in the spiritual. They mark you as responsive, not passive. There is a reason Archangel Michael emphasizes choice. Being singled out does not remove free will. You are not being dragged into destiny. You are being invited into alignment. This part of the message exists to remove confusion and self-doubt. You were not overlooked. You were not late. You were not forgotten. You were being prepared quietly while heaven watched closely. Now that preparation is meeting opportunity, you may feel a mixture of excitement and seriousness right now. That is appropriate. This is not entertainment. This is activation. The hidden reason you were chosen is no longer hidden because you need to understand your value before you step into responsibility. What comes next will require confidence rooted in truth, not emotion. And truth has just been spoken over you. This part ends with awareness, but it does not end the message. What follows will reveal the moment when heaven paused specifically for you, and why that pause will not remain open forever. Receive this understanding fully, because it is setting the foundation for everything that comes next. There was a moment, quiet, unseen, and precise, when heaven paused for you, not for a crowd, not for the many, for you. Time did not stop in the natural sense, but in the spiritual realm, attention narrowed. Archangel Michael stood in position, not as a distant figure, but as a guardian of timing, holding back what could have moved too early and protecting what could not be lost. You did not feel this pause because it was not meant to impress you, it was meant to preserve you. Some interventions are silent so they are not interrupted. This pause happened when you were closer to giving up than you realized. There was a crossroads, where one more disappointment could have shifted your direction permanently. Heaven saw it before you did. That is why things slowed instead of collapsed. That is why doors closed without destroying you. What felt like stagnation was actually restraint. Archangel Michael was enforcing divine order, making sure you did not step out of sequence. Destiny out of timing can be just as dangerous as destiny ignored. In that paused moment, heaven reviewed what was assigned to you. Not questioned. Reviewed. There is a difference. Review confirms ownership. And what was confirmed is that the assignment still belonged to you. It had not expired. It had not been transferred. It was waiting for your awareness to catch up with heaven's decision. That is why this message carries weight. You are no longer in an unknowing phase. You are being informed because the pause is ending. Heaven does not pause indefinitely. Pauses exist to allow alignment, not avoidance. This is why the tone is serious but not harsh. You are being brought into understanding, not pressured into panic. Archangel Michael's presence here is about clarity. You are being shown that the reason things did not fall apart was not luck. It was intervention. And intervention always comes with expectation. There were prayers you whispered that did not receive immediate answers. Those prayers were not ignored. They were timed. Heaven was waiting for the right internal shift before releasing the external change. Some answers would have overwhelmed you if they came too soon. Some doors would have distracted you if they opened prematurely. The pause was protective, not punitive. But protection has a limit. Once readiness is reached, movement is required. This is why awareness now is critical. You are being brought into the moment where heaven resumes motion. When that happens, neutrality is no longer an option. You either move with what is released or you step aside from it. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to sober you. Divine moments do not announce themselves loudly. They arrive quietly and require discernment to recognize. If you are feeling a sense of gravity right now, that is because your spirit understands the weight of resumed movement. Something is shifting from observation to participation. You are no longer being watched to see if you can survive. You are being watched to see if you will respond. That is a different level of attention. This is also why you may feel an unusual calm beneath the seriousness. Calm is confirmation. It means your spirit agrees with what is being said. Archangel Michael does not bring confusion. When he speaks, things settle into order. That order is forming within you now. You are being prepared to say yes without needing every detail explained. Hold this moment carefully. Do not rush past it. What comes next builds directly on what you are receiving now, and missing it would be like leaving a door half open. Stay with this message. You will be glad you stayed for what is about to be revealed. When heaven pauses for someone, it is because others are waiting on the outcome of that person's obedience. This is not only about you. This is about the lives that will be touched because you did not ignore the pause. This channel exists to release messages like this, messages that awaken, realign, and rescue people before they miss their moment. When you support this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not funding content. You are sowing light into places still covered by silence. I hear the Spirit saying, as you release what is in your hand, I will release what is in mine. This is a prophetic exchange, not a donation. Open heavens respond to obedient seeds, and those who give here are marked as carriers of fire, oil, and increase. Act now. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code appears on screen. Step into this moment of obedience without delay. Type I receive the pause in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 314 is now activated. What was assigned to you did not begin in your adulthood, or even in your awareness. It began before you were born. Long before your name was spoken on earth, it was recorded in heaven with intention. This is difficult for the natural mind to grasp, but the Spirit understands it instinctively. You were not created first and then given purpose later. You were created because of purpose. Your existence is evidence that an assignment already existed and needed a carrier. That carrier was you. There were moments in your life when you felt different without understanding why. You sensed depth early. You asked questions others avoided. You noticed things people overlooked. That was not personality alone. It was recognition. Something within you was remembering fragments of what was placed there long ago. Even as a child, certain patterns followed you. Pressure without explanation, responsibility without request, maturity without invitation. These were not accidents. They were signs of an ancient assignment pressing against time. Before you took your first breath, Parameters were set. Not limitations, but boundaries of protection. Heaven knew what you would need to survive what was ahead. That is why certain people crossed your path and others were blocked from reaching you. That is why some opportunities never materialized, even when they looked perfect on the surface. Your assignment required preservation. You could not afford detours that felt good, but would cost you alignment. So heaven intervened quietly, again and again. There were seasons when you felt delayed, as if life kept postponing your arrival into something undefined. That frustration was not because nothing was happening. It was because something important was happening beneath the surface. Assignments of weight require layering. Strength is built in stages. Awareness comes last. Heaven always prepares capacity before revelation. If you had known too early what you were carrying, the pressure might have crushed you. So knowledge was withheld, not out of denial, but out of mercy. This is where the difference between delay and forfeiture becomes clear. Delay is intentional. Forfeiture is optional. Delay protects what is valuable until it can be sustained. Forfeiture happens when something is abandoned, ignored, or treated as insignificant. Your assignment was delayed, but it was not forfeited. And the fact that you are here now, hearing this message, confirms that you never fully let go of it, even when you did not understand it. There were moments you almost walked away. Moments you told yourself you would live smaller, quieter, safer. Moments you considered settling into comfort instead of purpose. But something always pulled you back. An inner unrest. A refusal to be satisfied with surface-level existence. That was not dissatisfaction. That was calling. Your assignment would not let you forget it completely. Even when you tried to silence it, it waited patiently. Heaven respects free will, but it also honors persistence. You may not have moved it perfectly, but you stayed connected. You may not have understood the path, but you did not sever the line. That matters more than you realize. Obedience is not about flawlessness. It is about continuity. You remain reachable. And because you remain reachable, heaven remain engaged. This part of the message exists to correct a misunderstanding you may have carried for years. You may have believed that missed opportunities meant missed destiny, that mistakes disqualified you, that time lost could not be recovered. But assignments given before birth are not as fragile as you were led to believe. They are resilient because they are rooted in divine intention, not human performance. What is required is not perfection, but alignment. And alignment can be restored. Right now, something ancient is being reactivated. Not rewritten, reactivated. The delay has done its work. The formation has reached its threshold. And awareness is catching up to assignment. This is why the message feels layered. You are not only hearing new information, you are remembering old truth. Something inside you is waking up, recognizing its own origin. What comes next will require you to walk with intention instead of instinct alone. You are being invited to move from survival into stewardship, to stop reacting and start responding, to recognize that your life is not just about getting through days, but about fulfilling something that existed before days were counted for you. You not measure this assignment by your current circumstances. Circumstances are temporary. Assignment is foundational. What was placed on you before birth is not threatened by where you are now. It is waiting for agreement. And agreement begins with understanding. Let this settle. Let it rearrange how you see your past. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Everything was shaping your readiness for this moment. What was assigned to you is still alive. And now that it has your attention, it is preparing to move forward with you, not without you. There is a warning most people miss, not because it is hidden, but because it is uncomfortable to hear. Heaven does not shout this warning, it whispers it, knowing only those with discernment will pause long enough to listen. The warning is this: divine moments are not neutral. They are directional. When heaven speaks and a person ignores it, nothing stays the same. Silence is not harmless. Delay is not passive. Indifference carries consequence even when intention is not rebellious. This is difficult for many to accept because we are taught that mercy cancels all consequences. Mercy is real, but mercy does not erase order. Heaven operates by structure, timing, and response. When a message like this is released, it is not merely information, it is instruction. Ignoring instruction does not offend heaven emotionally, but it disrupts alignment spiritually. That disruption is where people unknowingly lose momentum, clarity, and access. This is why many people look back on their lives and say, something was supposed to happen, but it didn't. It is not always because heaven withdrew it. Often, it is because the moment passed unrecognized. Assignments require agreement, and agreement is demonstrated through attention and action, not intention alone. You can mean well and still miss a window. Throughout history, patterns repeat. Opportunities appear once, sometimes twice, but rarely endlessly. There are moments when heaven draws near with clarity, and those moments require a response. Not perfection, not full understanding, just response. The warning most people miss is that neutrality is interpreted as refusal in the spiritual realm. Heaven does not argue with hesitation. It simply redirects flow. This does not mean that destiny disappears entirely, but it does mean that the original form of the assignment may no longer be available. Impact can be reduced. Influence can be rerouted. What was meant to flow through one vessel may begin to look for another. This is not punishment. It is stewardship. Heaven prioritizes movement over attachment. What must be done will be done, through someone willing. This is why this message carries weight. You are not being accused. You are being informed. Awareness is being given so you do not unknowingly drift past what was meant for you. Warnings are acts of love. They exist because something can still be preserved. If cancellation were inevitable, there would be no message at all. Silence would be the only response. There is also a misunderstanding that missing one moment means everything is over. That is not true. But repeated disregard hardens sensitivity. Each ignored signal makes the next one quieter, not because heaven stops speaking, but because the heart stops listening. Over time, clarity becomes rare, not because it is withheld, but because it is no longer recognized. You may have noticed this pattern in others. People who once felt alive with purpose now feel disconnected. Not rebellious, just numb. That numbness did not arrive suddenly. It formed slowly, through postponed obedience and deferred attention. This is the warning most people miss. Spiritual dullness is not caused by sin alone, but by neglect of divine promptings. Archangel Michael's role in this message is critical. He is not only a defender, but an enforcer of divine order. His presence signals that alignment is being addressed. Order is being restored where drift was beginning. This warning is not meant to scare you into obedience. It is meant to wake you into awareness. You are being given clarity before consequence. This is also why the message does not condemn your past. The focus is not on what you missed, but on what is still available. Heaven is more interested in your next response than your previous hesitation. But that next response matters. The warning is gentle but firm because the moment is sensitive. You are being invited to choose attentiveness over autopilot. to stop treating spiritual nudges as background noise, to recognize that not every interruption is a distraction, some are direction. The warning most people miss is that divine interruptions require respect. They arrive to realign you before misalignment becomes normal. If you feel a sober stillness as you hear this, that is discernment activating. This is not about fear. It is about responsibility. You are being trusted with awareness because you are capable of responding to it. Heaven does not warn those who cannot hear. The warning itself is proof of capacity. Let this settle deeply, not as pressure but as clarity. You are not being rushed, but you are being awakened. The assignment connected to your life is still within reach, but it requires recognition. The warning has been delivered not to threaten you, but to protect what was meant to move through you. What comes next will bring reassurance, not by removing seriousness, but by revealing protection that has already been operating on your behalf. Now comes reassurance, not the kind that dulls urgency, but the kind that strengthens resolve. Archangel Michael's message does not only carry warning, it carries protection. You need to understand this clearly. The reason you are still standing is not because you were unnoticed, but because you were defended. There were forces that sought to derail you quietly, to exhaust you slowly, to confuse you just enough that you would step away on your own. They did not succeed, not because they were weak, but because protection was active. Archangel Michael is not assigned to trivial matters. His role is invoked when order must be enforced and when what is threatened carries weight in the divine plan. His involvement signals that your assignment was contested, not ignored. There were moments when the pressure felt disproportionate to your situation, when the resistance did not match the offense. That imbalance was not imagined. You were the result of unseen conflict around what you carry. You were shielded in ways you never fully recognized. Some of the dangers you prayed against never reached you. Some of the traps you almost walked into collapsed before you arrived. Some relationships ended abruptly, not because you failed, but because they could not accompany you further without causing damage. Protection does not always feel like comfort. Sometimes it feels like loss. But loss that saves you from misalignment is not loss at all. There were nights when exhaustion felt heavier than usual, when discouragement pressed in without explanation. Those were not signs of weakness. They were signs of engagement. When something valuable is guarded, pressure increases around it. Archangel Michael's presence meant that limits were placed on how far that pressure could go. You were tested, but not consumed. Shaken, but not destroyed. This was not accidental. Boundaries were enforced on your behalf. It is important that you understand this now, because awareness changes how you move forward. Protection does not mean the absence of battle. It means the outcome is not left to chance. You were never fighting alone, even when you felt isolated. Some of the strength you thought you generated on your own was reinforcement you did not see. Some of the clarity that returned just in time was intervention. Some of the resilience that surprised you was not self-produced. It was supplied. Archangel Michael's protection also explains why certain delays occurred at critical moments. There were times when you wanted answers immediately, movement immediately, relief immediately. But acceleration would have exposed you too early. Protection sometimes looks like restraint. It holds things back until you are fortified enough to handle what comes with advancement. Exposure without preparation can undo what was carefully preserved. You were not being punished when things slowed. You were being guarded. This is why comparison was always misleading for you. Others moved faster because their assignments required less shielding. Your pace was different because the stakes were different. What you are being prepared to carry requires integrity, stability, and discernment. These are not built quickly. This reassurance matters because fear distorts obedience. When people believe they are unprotected, they either rush recklessly or retreat completely. You are being told now that neither extreme is necessary. Protection has been active, and it continues, but it does not replace your responsibility to respond. Budding and guidance work together. One preserves the vessel, the other directs the vessel. There is also comfort in knowing that the resistance you faced did not mean you were off course. In many cases, it meant you were exactly where you needed to be. Opposition often intensifies near alignment. The enemy does not waste effort on what carries no consequence. The pressure around you was not proof of failure, it was proof of significance. As you move forward, do not misinterpret calm as absence of protection. Sometimes protection feels invisible when it is most effective. Archangel Michael did not announce every intervention. Some battles are won without spectacle. You are only meant to know what strengthens your trust, not everything that was deflected on your behalf. Let this reassurance settle your spirit. You are not late. You are not exposed. You are not unguarded. What is ahead of you is being approached with structure, order, and defense. This knowledge is meant to remove hesitation rooted in fear. You are not stepping forward unprotected. You are stepping forward with reinforcement already in place. What comes next will reveal how this protection shifts into preparation for movement. You are not only being defended, you are being positioned. And that positioning will soon require you to recognize the change and move with it. Now we come to the shift. The one that begins after this message is received, not merely heard. There is a difference. Hearing is passive. Receiving is participatory. The moment you receive this message, something subtle but decisive changes in the spiritual atmosphere around you. Heaven responds to recognition. Where awareness meets agreement, movement begins. This is where many people feel a quiet internal shift before anything external changes. That internal shift is not imagination. It is alignment taking place. After this message, you may notice that your tolerance for certain things begins to decrease. Conversations that once felt normal may start to feel empty. Patterns you once excused may suddenly feel heavy. This is not judgment. It is refinement. When alignment increases, discernment sharpens. What no longer serves the assignment begins to reveal itself clearly. This is part of the shift. It is not meant to isolate you, but to prepare you. You may also notice an increase in clarity around decisions you have been postponing. Situations that felt complicated may suddenly feel simple, not easy, but clear. Clarity does not always remove difficulty, but it removes confusion. That is one of the first signs that the shift has begun. Confusion loses its grip when alignment returns. You begin to see what requires courage and what requires release. Another sign of this shift is a renewed sense of responsibility. Not pressure, but ownership. You may feel a growing awareness that your choices matter more than you previously believed. This is not burden. It is authority awakening. Authority comes with responsibility because it recognizes influence. Heaven does not increase authority without also increasing awareness of impact. You may also experience resistance at this stage, not the chaotic resistance of before, but subtle resistance in the form of hesitation. Old habits may try to reassert themselves. Familiar distractions may feel unusually tempting. This is not coincidence. When alignment begins, what benefited from your inattention attempts to regain it. This is why intentionality matters now. The shift requires maintenance through awareness. Do not mistake this resistance as a sign you are doing something wrong. It is confirmation that movement has begun. Stillness rarely attracts opposition. Direction does. The key is not to fight everything aggressively, but to stay anchored. Alignment is sustained through consistency, not intensity. Small, intentional choices will matter more now than dramatic gestures. You may also notice signs of acceleration in unexpected areas. Conversations that open doors. Information that arrives at the right time. Connections that feel purposeful rather than random. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Heaven often confirms alignment through provision of insight rather than immediate results. You are being shown that the path is forming beneath your steps. This shift also involves internal recalibration. Your identity begins to realign with your assignment. You may feel less need to explain yourself, less need to seek validation, less need to rush. When identity stabilizes, urgency becomes focused rather than frantic. You begin to move with intention instead of impulse. Pay attention to what stirs peace rather than excitement alone. Excitement can be misleading. Peace carries confirmation. The shift brings a deeper calm, even when circumstances remain uncertain. That calm is not complacency. It is confidence rooted in alignment. You are learning to trust direction without demanding constant reassurance. After this message, you may also feel prompted to simplify, to reduce noise, to create space. This is not withdrawal, it is preparation. Space allows clarity to deepen. The noise dilutes discernment. The shift often invites reduction before expansion. Less distraction makes room for precision. It is important to understand that this shift is not dramatic for everyone. For some, it is quiet, gradual, and deeply personal. You not measure your experience against anyone else's. Comparison disrupts alignment. Your shift will unfold according to your capacity and calling. Trust the process without trying to force outcomes. This part of the journey requires patience paired with attentiveness. You are not waiting passively. You are watching actively. Listening. Adjusting. Responding. The shift is ongoing, not instantaneous. It unfolds as you continue to acknowledge and respond to what is being revealed. Do not underestimate the significance of this moment. Many people live their entire lives without ever recognizing a shift when it begins. You are being given awareness at the starting point, not the aftermath. That is a gift. Treat it with respect. What comes next will clarify the cost of delay versus the reward of obedience, and why timing matters more now than ever before. Stay present. The movement has already begun. Now you must understand the difference between delay and obedience, because at this stage, the cost of each becomes very clear. Delay always feels harmless in a moment. It disguises itself as wisdom, caution, or waiting for better conditions. Obedience, on the other hand, often feels uncomfortable, exposed, and demanding. This is why so many people delay, not because they are rebellious, but because they underestimate the price of waiting too long. Heaven measures timing differently than humans do. What feels like patience on earth can sometimes be hesitation in the spiritual realm. Delay does not always cancel assignments immediately. Instead, it slowly weakens momentum. It dulls urgency. It invites distraction. Over time, clarity begins to fade, not because heaven withdraws it, but because the heart becomes accustomed to postponement. This is the hidden cost. Delay rarely announces itself as disobedience. It presents itself as logic. And logic, when disconnected from alignment, can quietly sabotage destiny. Obedience, however, carries reward even when outcomes are not immediate. The reward is not always visible at first. Often, It appears as protection, peace, and precision. When you obey promptly, heaven responds by strengthening what you cannot see yet. Obedience positions you where provision can find you. Delay keeps you in places where provision passes by. At this point in the message, timing matters more than comfort. You are no longer unaware. Awareness changes responsibility. Now that you recognize the moment, what you do with it carries weight. Obedience here does not mean having everything figured out. It means responding with trust rather than waiting for certainty. Certainty often comes after movement, not before it. There is also a difference in atmosphere between delay and obedience. Delay feels heavy over time. It creates internal tension. Obedience, even when difficult, brings relief. That relief is not because challenges disappear, but because resistance ends. When you move with alignment, you stop fighting what was meant to flow through you. That alone restores strength. You may be tempted to tell yourself you will respond later, when things feel clearer or easier. But clarity increases through obedience, not postponement. Ease is rarely the signal. Alignment is. And alignment often asks for action while questions remain. This is not recklessness. It is trust rooted in discernment. The reward of obedience is not just personal advancement. It is expanded influence. When you move on time, others benefit from your movement. When you delay, others wait without knowing why. This is why heaven treats obedience as stewardship. What you carry was never meant to end with you. It was meant to pass through you. Delay narrows impact. Obedience multiplies it. Delay keeps assignments contained. Obedience releases them. This is not meant to pressure you, but to clarify the stakes. You are capable of responding. That is why this is being revealed now. If you feel the seriousness of this moment, that is discernment sharpening. This is not fear. This is focus. Focus arrives when distractions lose their appeal. You are being brought to a point of decision, not dramatic, but decisive. Hold this awareness carefully. Do not rush past it. What you choose now shapes the pace of what follows, and what follows carries more than you may realize. Hold on. What comes next builds on this choice in a way that changes everything. This message exists because God is reaching people who are standing at the edge of delay and obedience without realizing it. When you support this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not giving to a channel. You are helping heaven reach hearts before they miss their moment. I hear the Lord saying, as you release seed into my work, I will release clarity, provision, and acceleration into your life. This is sowing into light, into open heavens, into souls awakening right now. Do not hesitate. Act with obedience. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code is on screen. Step into this prophetic exchange now. Type "I choose obedience" in the comments if this resonates with you. Lesson code 642 is now activated. This is the call to stand and be counted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but decisively. Up until now, much of this message has been about awareness, recognizing what was assigned, understanding timing, discerning protection, and weighing the cost of delay against obedience. Now the message shifts from insight to identification. Heaven distinguishes between those who observe and those who respond. Both can hear the same message, but only one group becomes aligned with what follows. Standing to be counted does not mean perfection. It means visibility in the spiritual sense. It means you are no longer hiding behind uncertainty or waiting for permission that has already been granted. When heaven calls for response, it is not asking for credentials, it is asking for availability. This is the moment where availability matters more than readiness. Readiness grows after you step forward, not before. Many people assume that response must look dramatic. That is not true. Response often begins quietly, with acknowledgement, with alignment, with agreement. But agreement must be expressed. Silence keeps things internal. Expression externalizes intention. This is why response is important. Heaven recognizes signal. When you respond outwardly, you are signaling inward agreement. This is how alignment becomes active. This is also why engagement matters here. Not because of platforms or metrics, but because action anchors intention. When you like, comment, share, or subscribe, you are not just interacting with content. You are declaring, I am present. I'm paying attention. I am responding. These actions may seem small, but spiritually, they are markers. They separate passive listeners from active participants. Sharing this message is not about promotion. It is about participation. Someone else may be standing at the same crossroads you were standing at moments ago, unaware that timing matters. Your action could be the interruption that reaches them. Engagement becomes intercession when it is aligned with purpose. Subscribing is also more than routine. It is a decision to stay connected to clarity, to remain within a flow that sharpens discernment rather than dulls it. Alignment is not sustained through one moment alone. It is maintained through continued exposure to truth. Choosing to stay connected is choosing consistency. And commenting is not noise here. It is declaration. Words spoken or written carry weight. When you declare alignment publicly, you reinforce it internally. This is why heaven often asks for verbal response. What is declared is strengthened. What is hidden remains fragile. Your comment is not for others to see. It is for you to confirm what you have already recognized. This is the line between watchers and responders. Watchers consume and move on. Responders engage and are changed. Both heard the message. Only one group aligns with its momentum. Heaven moves with responders. This is not favoritism. It is order. Movement follows movement. You may feel hesitation even now. That hesitation is not always fear. Sometimes it is the last attempt of old patterns to remain comfortable. Familiarity resists change, even when change is necessary. Recognize that hesitation without obeying it. You do not need to eliminate it. You only need to move despite it. This moment does not demand loud confidence. It demands quiet courage. Courage is choosing alignment when comfort is available. Courage is responding before certainty arrives. Courage is acknowledging that this moment matters and acting accordingly. If you are still here, still listening, still engaged, that itself is evidence of responsiveness. Do not stop at awareness. Complete the movement with action. Let this message leave a mark, not just a memory. Stay with this. What is coming next will confirm what cannot be stopped and more once alignment is sealed. You will want to hear what follows, because it reveals why this response creates momentum that resistance can no longer block. Now comes confirmation, not the kind that depends on opinion or emotion, but the kind that follows obedience. When you respond to alignment, heaven responds with evidence. These confirmations are not always dramatic, but they are precise. They arrive as patterns, repetitions, and inner recognitions that cannot be dismissed as coincidence once you are attentive. Confirmation is how heaven reassures without needing to explain everything at once. One of the first confirmations many people experience is repetition. Numbers that appear consistently. Words that surface in different places. Themes that echo across conversations, messages, or moments of quiet reflection. These repetitions are not random. They are reinforcement. Heaven speaks through consistency. When something appears again and again, He is inviting you to pay attention to direction, not just detail. Another confirmation comes through inner urgency, not anxiety, but clarity that does not fade. This urgency feels steady rather than frantic. It does not push you into panic. It pulls you into focus. You may feel a stronger desire to act on things you previously postponed. Decisions you delayed may now feel necessary. This is not pressure. It is alignment tightening. When heaven confirms direction, it strengthens resolve. Dreams may also become clearer or more vivid. Not always symbolic, but purposeful. You may dream of movement, preparation, or transition. These dreams are not predictions. They are reflections of internal alignment catching up with external purpose. Pay attention to how you feel upon waking. Peace is often the indicator, even when the imagery is intense. Confirmation carries calm beneath its message. You may also notice confirmation through people. Not everyone, specific people. Someone may say something that directly addresses a thought you had privately. Someone may appear at the right time with insight or opportunity. These encounters are not meant to replace discernment, but to support it. Heaven often uses people as mirrors to confirm what it has already spoken internally. Another sign of confirmation is the removal of confusion. Things that once felt tangled may suddenly make sense, not because circumstances changed, but because perspective did. Clarity is one of the strongest confirmations. When confusion lifts, it signals alignment. Heaven does not confirm by adding noise. It confirms by restoring order. You may also experience an unusual peace alongside uncertainty. This peace does not depend on outcomes. It exists even when you do not know the next steps fully. This is important to recognize. Peace is not the absence of challenge. It is the presence of assurance. When peace arrives without explanation, it is often confirmation that you are moving correctly. There may also be resistance that appears briefly and then fades. Resistance that once lingered may lose its grip quickly. Situations that would have drained you before may now feel manageable. This shift is subtle but meaningful. It indicates that alignment has changed the dynamics around you. What once had power now has limits. Confirmation also comes through timing. Things begin to happen in sequence rather than chaos. One step leads naturally to the next. Even delays feel purposeful rather than frustrating. When timing aligns, frustration decreases. You stop forcing movement and start recognizing flow. It is important not to chase confirmation obsessively. Confirmation follows obedience. It does not precede it endlessly. If you find yourself seeking signs instead of responding to direction, pause and return to alignment. Heaven confirms to strengthen trust, not to replace it. Do not compare your confirmations to others. Comparison distorts discernment. Your confirmations are tailored to your assignment. What reassures someone else may not reassure you. Heaven communicates personally. Trust what resonates with peace and clarity, not what impresses. This part of the journey is about stabilization. Confirmation stabilizes movement. It helps you stay aligned when challenges arise. It reminds you that you are not guessing, you are responding. And response brings reinforcement. As you recognize these confirmations, acknowledge them quietly. Gratitude strengthens awareness. Awareness sustains alignment. And alignment prepares you for what comes next. What comes next is not speculation. It is inevitability. Once alignment is confirmed and response is active, certain things can no longer be stopped. The next part will reveal what is now protected, why resistance loses authority, and how momentum begins to work in your favor. There comes a point where movement becomes irreversible, where alignment reaches a threshold and what was once fragile becomes protected. This is that point. Once you have recognized the assignment, responded to the moment, and begun to move in alignment, certain things can no longer be stopped. Not because opposition disappears, but because authority shifts. Resistance loses leverage when alignment is sealed. What could be delayed before can no longer be delayed in the same way. Doors that were closed for protection begin to open for passage. Conversations you once had to force now unfold naturally. Opportunities no longer require constant effort to sustain them. This is not ease without effort. It is effort that finally produces traction. Momentum begins to work with you instead of against you. One of the first things that cannot be stopped anymore is clarity of direction. You may not know every detail, but you know enough to move. Confusion no longer paralyzes you. Even when questions arise, they do not derail you. This is because clarity has shifted from external validation to internal conviction. Conviction anchors movement. Once anchored, movement becomes steady. Another thing that cannot be stopped is the reordering of your environment. Alignment changes what can remain around you. Some connections will naturally fade without conflict. Some distractions will lose their appeal without effort. This is not loss. It is refinement. What does not align no longer has access. That access point has closed. You may notice that people begin to respond to you differently. Not because you changed your personality, but because authority alters presence. Alignment carries weight. People sense it before they understand it. Some will be drawn to it. Others will resist it. Both reactions confirm that something has shifted. Neutrality becomes rare around aligned movement. What also cannot be stopped is the internal strengthening that occurs. Doubt may still attempt to surface, but it no longer dominates. Fear may appear, but it no longer decides. You begin to recognize these voices as information, not instruction. Instruction now comes from alignment. This internal hierarchy is critical. Once established, it is difficult to dismantle. There is also a protection that activates around aligned momentum. Not immunity from difficulty, but limitation on damage. Challenges may arise, but they do not derail purpose. Delays may occur, but they do not dissolve direction. The assignment is no longer vulnerable to collapse because it is no longer dependent on indecision. This does not mean everything becomes easy. It means everything becomes purposeful. Even obstacles serve refinement rather than redirection. You stop asking, "Is this a sign to quit?" and start asking, "What is this shaping in me?" A shift in question changes outcomes. Purpose absorbs pressure differently than uncertainty does. Another thing that cannot be stopped is recognition. Not public recognition necessarily, but functional recognition. People who need what you carry will begin to notice you. Opportunities will align with capacity rather than ego. This recognition is not about elevation for display. It is about placement for impact. Alignment attracts appropriate visibility. You may also notice an increase in responsibility. This is not punishment. It is trust. Heaven entrusts more to those who respond consistently. Responsibility grows because capacity has grown. You are no longer being handled delicately. You are being engaged deliberately. That is a sign of trust. It is important to understand that this stage requires continued humility. Momentum can tempt you to write. Authority can tempt you to assume. Stay grounded. Alignment is maintained through attentiveness, not autopilot. What brought you here will sustain you if you continue to honor it. Do not look back with regret over what could have been earlier. Regret wastes energy needed for movement. The moment is now, and now is sufficient. What matters is not when you started, but that you are aligned now. From this point forward, retreat will feel unnatural. Not impossible, but uncomfortable. Alignment creates a forward pull. You may slow, but you will not want to stop. That is how you know momentum has taken hold. What remains is not uncertainty, but completion. One final sealing remains, a closing that does not end the message, but anchors it. What comes next will bring assurance, upliftment, and a final declaration over what has been activated in you. This is the closing seal, not an ending, but a confirmation that what has been spoken is now anchored. You did not arrive at this moment by accident, and you will not leave it unchanged. Everything you have heard has been building toward this assurance. Heaven does not awaken someone without intention, and it does not call someone forward without provision. What has been stirred in you is not fragile. It has been tested, guarded, clarified, and now affirmed. You are not standing at the edge of uncertainty. You are standing at the beginning of alignment made visible. Let this truth settle deeply. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not late to something you missed forever. You were preserved until the moment you could recognize what was always yours. That preservation was intentional. The delays, the pauses, the resistance, and even the silence all serve a purpose. They shaped your discernment so that when clarity arrived, you would recognize it without needing to be convinced. Heaven is not asking you to strain or strive. It is inviting you to walk with awareness. Awareness changes how you carry responsibility. You no longer move blindly. You move attentively. An attentive movement is powerful because it stays aligned even when conditions fluctuate. This is how assignments endure beyond emotion. They are sustained by conviction. As this message closes, understand that reassurance does not mean passivity. Peace does not mean pause. Peace means you can move without panic. Confidence does not mean knowing everything. It means trusting what has been revealed. You have been given enough clarity for the next step, and that is all alignment ever requires. The rest unfolds as you move. There will still be moments of challenge. That does not change. But challenges will no longer define direction. They will refine it. You will begin to recognize resistance as feedback rather than instruction. Fear as a signal, not a command. Doubt as noise, not authority. This internal shift is one of the greatest confirmations that alignment has taken root. Do not underestimate the power of consistency from this point forward. You do not need dramatic gestures to honor what hath been activated. You need steady obedience. Small, aligned decisions compound over time. They build momentum quietly, but firmly. Heaven honors faithfulness more than intensity. Remain faithful to what you now understand. Let gratitude become part of your posture. Gratitude keeps awareness sharp. It reminds you that you are not self-made in this journey. Acknowledge the protection that preserved you, the clarity that found you, the courage that rose when hesitation tried to stay. Gratitude strengthens alignment because it keeps pride and fear from taking over. Now hear this assurance clearly. What has been activated will not be easily shaken. It has been sealed with understanding, not emotion. Understanding endures when feelings fluctuate. This is why this message had to unfold slowly, layer by layer. You were being prepared not just to receive, but to sustain what comes next. As we close, this message flows naturally into an act of obedience that extends beyond you. This channel exists to release messages that awaken people before they miss their moment. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are participating in a harvest of awareness, I speak this as a living word. As you sow into this work, I open rivers where there were dry places and release increase where obedience has been shown. This is not charity. It is alignment. Act now. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code is on screen. Obey the prompting and release the seed. Now receive this final seal. You are covered. You are guided. You are aligned. Walk forward without drinking. What heaven has affirmed will unfold as you continue to respond with clarity and courage. This is not the end of the message. It is the beginning of its fulfillment. Type "I am aligned" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 908 is now activated.